Alright. I never know how to start these things. Anyways, I'm back with another build. This one is going to be V, which is going to be capping off the Devil May Cry 5 quartet, as it were. Initially, I didn't even want to try and do V. I couldn't see a build where you weren't compromising one aspect of what makes V V to try and make a decent build, and I could I toiled with various different combinations of different classes and ideas to try and get a build where you could use all of these abilities, and I just could not find one. And then I realized I was thinking about builds all wrong, and I was kind of thinking, and this goes for all of my builds, the way I've been making builds in this game, it doesn't take into account everything about Baldur's Gate 3. I was still making my builds with a D&D mindset, whereas I really need to make my builds with a Baldur's Gate mindset. And I think you'll enjoy where I've managed to go with this. So, let's go over the build objectives. Number one, I want V to essentially be the face of the party. He is going to be the one who is going to be in conversation with a lot of knowledge on various things. So I'm going to be trying to get a lot of proficiencies with V, as many as I can, so that you can basically succeed most of the game's roles, if not all of them, that come your way. Second of all, I want to be able to get Shadow, I believe it's called. I can't remember the Panther's name. I'm pretty sure it's Shadow. And then Griffen, and then also Nightmare. I want all three of these familiars playable and usable in this game. And that was the thing I struggled with, because when I was making my initial builds, I could get two of those, but never the third. I would always have to kind of mix and match and kind of pick and choose, but I think I've finally found a way to get all three. So, let's get into the build. First things first, we are going to be a rogue. Yeah, when I said we were going to give you getting proficiencies, I wasn't kidding. We're going to be starting with a rogue. This is going to give us all of the weapon proficiencies that we will need. Light armor proficiency, which we're not even going to be wearing armor, as you can see here. And it's the main thing this is going to give us is, while we do get sneak attack, you can use it, but I'm not sure if you will so much. We get our skill proficiencies here. So, let's go over the stats. We're going to... Actually, I'll just clear everything quick. We're going to be taking a 10 in Dex, 10 in Constitution. You can probably guess why. And then we're just going to bump all of these up. So, the actual way you want to do this is put 13 here, put a +2 here for intelligence, keep wisdom at 15, bump charisma up to 16, use your +1 there. This is going to give you 15 intelligence, 15 wisdom, 16 charisma, and that is going to be a really good baseline for all of the social stats, ranging from arcana to persuasion. Really, really good. So let's take a look at what stats we want. Let me just unselect all these, so I can give you the full rundown on what you want to pick. So, this is kind of important. You want to make sure you're picking the exact right stats here. And actually, you're going to see some different footage, which is a bit unusual for me, where I'm actually creating this character from scratch, because the race and the background that you pick is actually super, super important. You're going to want to pick a wood elf, because they get 2 proficiencies right off the bat, perception and stealth, 2 really, really strong proficiencies for absolutely free. I believe they also get increased movement speed, but that might be the wood half elf, I'm not sure. But basically you get a lot for being just a wood elf. Also, you want to pick the charlatan background for deception and sleight of hand. That's going to cover 2 major categories right there as well. Deception being one of our 3 big social skills, and sleight of hand being really, really useful for kind of bypassing certain difficult obstacles that build making faces in this game. So, right off the bat, you're going to want to pick the 3 big charisma skills: intimidation, performance, and persuasion. You get 1 more here. I would personally just pick insight here. I mean, you get 2 expertise. Now, you can put these wherever you fancy. I like to put mine in persuasion, because it's definitely the skill check that comes up the most. And also stealth, because this build isn't really going to be one that wants to take a lot of hits, really. So being able to kind of maybe hide mid-combat would actually be quite useful. Because well, in Devil May Cry 5, obviously V is the one you kind of want to keep out of combat and while you let your familiars go in, even though we are going to have a lot of hit points with this build, because as you could probably guess, I'm using that specific item once again. It's just really nothing better. We do want to be staying out of combat because we're going to be maintaining concentration most of the time, so if you want to be able to hide with combat and maybe even use your sneak attacks, stealth expertise is a good way to go. Right, with that, we've leveled up, and I guess there's a bit of a spoiler on the side here, but yep, this is how we're getting our familiars. I'll go over this now, just to kind of justify the rest of the build. So, first up, we have... it doesn't really matter who, by the way, who you use for each build, it's going to be the same. So, so what you're actually getting with this kind of thing is a full party build. Each character is going to be some variation of Moon Druid. There are slight differences, but you're basically pumping up the Moon Druid levels as high as you can, and then a couple of the builds will take a quick dip into Fighter. I'll have a visual on screen now that actually shows all the different intricacies that go into each particular build, because since you don't need ability score increases because you're mainly going to be using the wild shape forms, you basically get to focus entirely on feats. For the Panther forms, so basically how we achieve the 3 summons is we use wild shape druids. So it does suck a bit that you have to use your whole party to dedicate to this build, but this build is so fun to use with a full party, but I still wanted to make this video. I will be providing an alternative build that makes it so you can run V alongside the other 3 builds that I've made as a full party. So you get a solo build, but this is the way to most accurately recreate V. So starting off, we have the level 12 Moon Druid for the Panther. This build uses a couple of really important feats. We're using Resilient Dexterity to bump our Dexterity up an extra point while in Wild Shape. For those of you who don't know, this is really useful documentation on Reddit about what feats and abilities work with Wild Shape. And Resilient is one of them. Basically, if there is a feat in the game that bumps one stat by 1, and doesn't give you like the plus and minus level up thing in the toolbox, it actually will apply that to Wild Shape. So Resilience, Heavy Ever Master, Performer, Actor, those all work. But here we went for Resilient Dexterity because the Panther usually has 15 dex, and with this you bump that up to 16, allowing for 1 extra point of armor class. We're also using, I believe, yes, the dual wielder feat. You can use 2 weapon fighting even if... Oh, why has my mouse disappeared? There we go. Dual wielder. You can use 2 weapon fighting even if the weapons you are wielding aren't light. So you get a +1 to armor class from that. For some reason it's not showing up here, but it does work in my testing. I have been able to get this to work. Sometimes it's a little bit buggy. You need to kind of wild shape out and wild shape back in, or unequip and re-equip things out of wild shape and then go back in. But this does work. You will have a total of 16 armor class when using this build with the Panther, which is a bit low, but since the Panther has the ability to turn invisible to prowl around the map, and also gains a ton of attacks as well, and the ability to heal itself using Lunar Mend from the Moon Druid, you're not going to be too worried about HP here. Next up we have Griffen the Raven. This also uses the dual wielder feat to get an extra AC. I don't know why it's being not being shown here. I think it only shows when you're outside of the camp, because it means that they actually have the weapons equipped technically. But yeah, so you're getting a total of 20 AC here, because you get the 10 from the armor class, 2 from dexterity, 2 from lunar protection, which I'll get to in a minute, and the +1 from the fence. We get the equipment here. This piece of armor here is called the Moon Full Armor, I believe. What it essentially does is it gives you a +2 to AC and an extra 22 temporary hit points while wild shaped. The reason we give this to the Raven is because otherwise it would only have a base dexterity score of, I believe, 14 with everything. I know it says 10 base armor class and +2 from dex, but it actually had 14 in my testing as base. So yeah, but and it also has obviously the lowest HP, so the idea with this build is that you take the dual wielder feat to get AC as well. you take a 1-level dip into Fighter for the defense fighting style, and you also take, where is it? Yeah, Mobile, because what you can do is you get a ton of movement speed and the ability to fly. So you fly in, do your 3 attacks, and then fly out, because as a level, I believe 11, at least Moon Druid, or at least level 10, you actually get the ability to make up to 3 attacks while wild shaped. That is super powerful, and all 3 of our wild shapes are going to get this. So it's really, really cool. Now, the third wild shape, you actually get a bit of a choice. Obviously, this is meant to represent Nightmare, so a level 12 Moon Druid can go into, I guess level 10, but we're level 12 here, can go into the, oh god, I don't even want to try and pronounce it, the Myrmidon forms, which gives you fire, earth, water, and wind Myrmidians. I'm going to call them Myrms. So you get the Myrms, right? They each have different abilities, and they each have different kind of like fighting styles, but I feel like they all represent Nightmare quite well, especially the Earth one. I think that one's probably the closest. I've got the Fire one up here just because I was testing them around, but this one can actually cast haste on itself, kind of for free, so it's quite powerful actually. The main difference with this thing is, yes, you still take the Fighter dip for defense, that give you 19 AC overall, but you want to take Sentinel and Savage Attacker with this build as well. Savage Attacker will allow, because the Myrms, in contrast to the unarmed strikes of the other guys, these ones actually use weapon attacks, so by taking Savage Attacker, you get to basically always make sure your damage is going to be high with your basic attacks. And with Sentinel, you get to make opportunity attacks and are able to protect your allies, so which is what Nightmare does. So, really, really, really powerful. And one thing I forgot to mention about the Panther build, this is kind of all over the place, and I apologize, but this is probably the least detailed part about this build, is that you also want to take the Tavern Brawler feat here, because the Panther actually does make unarmed attacks and has a decent strength score, so Tavern Brawler will benefit you here. And also I put on the Corvid token just so you can get a free Featherfall while wild-shaped. Nice for versatility. And on the Myrmidon, you can also, I don't have it here, but you could put on the Shape Changes hat if you want for an extra wild shape charge, because the problem with the Myrms is they take 2 wild shape charges, so you only get 1 transformation per short rest. Whereas if you have the Shape Changer hat, you get 1 extra charge, which is not enough to be a Myrm again, but you do get another wild shape out of it, so you can have another form as a backup. But yeah, that is how we accomplish... This is how we accomplish all 3 of these familiars. And I think it works pretty well. We're going to dip straight out of Rogue and go into Cleric. Now, from this point on, you can take these levels in any order you want. I'm just going through like kind of the levels we take least from each class, so we only take 1 level of Rogue, so I go with that first, also for the proficiencies. And we're only going to be taking 1 level of Cleric, so we'll go over that next. Now, originally with this build, I wanted to take 3 levels of Cleric to get the Aid spell, because that would give all of our familiars a ton of extra HP. Except for some reason in this game, I'm not sure if this is a bug or if this is intended, Aid does not work on wild-shaped characters. They get the status effect, but their HP does not increase. I don't know why this is the case, and it's kind of disappointing, because it kind of nerfs this build a lot. But, we still take 1 level of Cleric here, because we get some useful things. We get the 3 stat boost, like the conversation boosting cantrips, that being Resistance, Guidance, and Thaumaturgy. You want all 3 of these because they're really, really useful, and being able to cast them on yourself to give you advantage, to basically give you an edge in any conversation is really, really good. That's the face of the party. Our subclass is going to be the Knowledge Domain here. And as for your entity, you can pick literally whatever you want. I think all it changes is like some dialogue options. I think Mistra or Ogma kind of fit V nicely for, you know, Mother of All Magic and for Inspiration and Invention knowledge kind of guy. But you can pick literally whatever you want here. I'll go with Ogma. We get 2 skill proficiencies here, and Arcana and History are pretty darn good ones to have, so we'll stick with them. You also get 3 spells here. I would say, like, you don't really want concentration spells, but since you're not going to be getting our main spell until later, You can take these for now, but I honestly think your healing spells would be quite nice to basically give some support to your familiars. So I would say Healing Word, Cure Wounds, and either Bless or Bane. I'll take Bless. Now, next up, we're going to be diving into one of our main subclasses here. We're going to be multiclassing out of Cleric, as I said, and we're going to be jumping over to Bard next, which is always fun for a Devil May Cry character because we get Vicious Mockery, which, if you wanted to actually roleplay V, as you probably would play him in DMC5, just like spamming taunts in the background for fun while everybody else attacks. You can use Vicious Mockery as your main attacking cantrip, but you don't have to. I would also take Friends here for being able to get advantage on charisma checks, because again, as mentioned in the Dante video, this is super good. As for your spells, you will want to take Longstrider because this does work on your wild shape familiars, so you definitely want to bring this along for that extra bit of movement speed for all of them. Featherfall because it's useful. Speak with Animals because if we're getting Speak with Animals, that obviously is better for dialogue and being the face of the party, but also it means we don't have to get the animal handling skill proficiency. And Disguise Self because, again, this is one-for-one the Dante build. It is just the 4 useful skills that are extremely good to have in this game. And for your starting instrument, I would say the violin, because it's literally V's kind of starting instrument. He does the taunt with his cane where he pretends to play the violin and it actually plays the sound, so I think it's quite cool, because you can actually perform with your musical instruments as a free action, and it kind of replaces the battle music, so I actually think it's kind of thematic for V to be able to play a violin in battle, so yeah. You're also going to get a skill proficiency for going into Bard. I will go over this. I will actually take this opportunity to go over the skill proficiencies we're not getting. That's Athletics and Acrobatics because we don't need them. And as I said before, Animal Handling because we speak with animals, you don't need it. Now, you're going to notice a bug here. We have Arcana and History proficiency, but for some reason here the game says we don't. We do. I don't know why it's not showing up here and giving us the option to select it, because this will actually just basically waste your proficiency that you get here. So I would definitely take Nature or Religion. I'm personally going to take Religion at the moment because, well, we were just a cleric, so you know. Anyways, moving on. Next up is Bard 2, meaning we get Jack of all trades, Song of Rest, same as the Dante build. 3 short rests is super good, especially when your wild shape familiars recover their wild shape charges on a short rest, so having 3 is going to get you through the game super easy. Another spell at this level, I like Thunderwave here, because if you want your enemies to get away from you so you can just move out the way without taking opportunity attacks, just being able to Thunderwave and say, get up off me, is a really good spell. So we'll go with that. At Bard 3 we get our subclass, and well, if we're being a skill monkey for proficiencies, we're absolutely taking the College of Law. This gives you Cutting Words, which allows you to even further taunt enemies to actually do damage and lower their chance to hit, so it's really fun. And I find that if you take this class, every time an enemy misses an attack, regardless of what you do, your character will just freaking taunt them anyway. So it's a ton of fun. It is a ton of fun. So we get a spell here. I'm going to take See Invisibility, because I actually think this is quite... I didn't realize that this was a ritual spell that lasts until long rest, so if by taking this you get another really powerful utility tool. It allows you to just see invisible creatures whenever you want. But we also get our skill proficiencies here. Again, look, we have this bug where our other skills aren't showing up, and I don't know why. It's really strange. So we're going to get 3 skill proficiencies and 2 expertise. As for the skills we want, again, we got Arcana and History already, so we're going to be taking Investigation and Nature, I believe, is the ones we don't have. Then we get a third one. I would take Survival, because that lets you see those hidden buried treasure areas around the game. And then for your expertise, take whatever you feel is good. I quite like to grab Insight and Investigation here, because that is another way of kind of solving mysteries and telling if people are lying. All really cool stuff. So we get our subclass stuff there. Our proficiencies. For the final level of Bard, because we're only taking 4, we're going to be grabbing our first feat. We get a cantrip here. I would take Mage Hand for the utility. Being able to open doors and activate levers and such remotely is really good. Here for your other spell, you can take kind of any of these. You can get Tech Thoughts, Invisibility, Knock, same as the Dante build. If you want to take Hold Person, maybe, if you want to kind of like hold an enemy down while your familiars go ham, that could also work. I'm just going to take the Tech Thoughts here because it's another one of our rituals. As for the feat, this is a bit of a strange choice, but I find it is actually a really useful one. We're going to be taking the Alert feat, which means you get a +5 bonus to initiative and cannot be surprised. This means that whenever combat happens, you immediately get to cast your buff on your familiars, and then you will be able to get ahead of your enemies. So basically, you're almost always going to be the first one in the initiative. You immediately buff up all your allies with your buffs, and then go straight into combat with a full power party. Really, really important. Obviously, like I said before, you don't have to take... We haven't even gotten our main buff spell yet, so you would probably want to take levels in a different class first. But for now, whichever way you go about it, Alert is your first feat, because it is super, super good. Right, so our next level, we're going to be going into our final multi-class here, which is going to be Sorcerer. Again, this is similar to my old Virgil build, but which I'm going to be redoing, because that video was awful. But we're going to be taking whatever cantrips you like here. It really doesn't matter. If you want some offensive capability, go with your firebolts and such. I'm going to grab these ones. I don't know. I just kind of like them. Don't know why. Doesn't really matter. Here, you want to take Shield for sure, and Magic Missile. They're just the two basic level 1 spells that you pretty much always want to go with. You could take Enhanced Leap if you want to spend an action to give someone jump distance, but it's really not necessary. As for your subclass, however, this was kind of important. You want to take Draconic Bloodline, simply because we're wearing clothing in this build. So Draconic Bloodline gives us unarmored defense. We get an AC equal to our dexterity modifier plus 13. So having unarmored defense is really, really, really good here. As for your Dragon Ancestor, it does not matter. Pick whatever gives you the spell you want most. I'll personally be taking the Black Dragon for Grease. And then obviously, if you want to keep the V look, you want to remove the scales here. We call like Giga Chad V. I never really took a close look at this face. We're gonna look at him. Freaking. Oh, good. It's really hard to recreate the characters' faces. Anyways, moving on. Next up is Sorcerer 2, which means we get the thing that we're really here for. Meta Magic. So as for your spell, take whatever you want. I mean, you could have taken Mage Armor instead of, like, getting the unarmored defense, but I personally don't like to have to be reminded to cast Mage Armor at the start of every day, so just go with whatever you like there. But I will say, you can take Chromatic Orb. This gives you a wide range of elemental damage. And for here, we're obviously taking not Quicken Spell, Twin Spell. The most important meta magic in this build and probably in the entire game at the moment. It's so, so powerful. And you kind of have options. I always like to take Distance Spell just so I can eke out that little bit of extra range, and it works for V since you're going to want to be staying as far away from the main combat as possible, so Distance Spell really works here. Next up, we're going for Sorcerer 3, which means we're going to be getting our next bit of meta magic, which obviously is going to be Quicken Spell, probably tied with Twin Spell for being the most powerful meta magic in the game, so you're definitely going to want to pick that up. Next up, I would say grab Misty Step. V does get the ability to teleport, and again, it's probably the most useful bonus action utility move you can do as a caster, so Misty Step is very, very, very good. We'll keep going here. I'm trying to keep this video shorter, if you couldn't tell. Right, next up, we get another cantrip. We already took Blade Ward, I believe, earlier. If we didn't, I'm just being forgetful, but you can take it here if you want. Take whatever. I'm just going to take a Minor Illusion. I don't know why. Just sounds right to me. You get another level 2 spell here. I'm going to be taking Knock, just so we can be guaranteed to open any mundane lock in the game. And then lastly, for our final feat of the build, we're going to be taking an ability score improvement and bumping our intelligence and wisdom up to 16. This gives us a +3 on all of these skills at minimum. Our proficiencies take this up, and our expertise take this up even higher. So, and it also makes us really good at the saving throws for these proficiencies, for these skills. Sorry. So we are very, very unlikely to come under the effect of harmful status effects in conjunction with our equipment. So we'll take those and keep moving on. Next up is Sorcerer level 5. We are going to be getting our most important things from Sorcerer here. Again, this is probably what you want to take first after Rogue. But again, I was just going in order of least to most levels. So yeah, we're taking our 5th level of Sorcerer here. We are going to be getting our new spell, which, if you didn't guess, I don't know what to tell you, we're taking Haste. The most important spell of this build, combined with the twin spelled meta magic. You are going to be twin hasting 2 of your familiars and just letting them go ham, because if my math is correct, I'm going to be doing the full testing for the build after this recording, so you'll see some footage at the end of me testing this in combat. If my assumptions are correct about how Wild Strike works, if it works like extra attack and that, you should be able to get upwards of 6 attacks with the familiars that you haste, which is pretty damn insane. I would be kind of cheating if I said this is the most damaging build I've made, because technically it uses 4 characters, but this is the most damaging build I've made with this combo, if everything works the way I believe it does. Like I say, I will be confirming or denying this with the text prompt you see right now. God, I hope I'm not a liar. Anyways, moving forward. Our final level is going to be optional. It depends on what you want from the build. I think Sorcerer 6 is probably the best choice because you get an extra sorcery point, which means I believe you get 6 total. So you get to twin haste up to, I believe, 3 times between your rests, so that's really strong. You also gain your Draconic elemental affinity damage. I mean, we do have an acid dealing cantrip, but this is very rarely going to come up. And we get resistance to acid damage here if you pick the Black Dragon, but it depends on whatever you picked. Here, you could also go for Bard level 5 for Font of Inspiration and Improved Bardic Inspiration if you want. You also get your levels. You're going to get your level 6 spell slot either way, as long as you level up one of the 4 casters, that being Cleric, Bard, or Sorcerer. So if you want the extra sorcery point for more twin hastes, go with Sorcerer. If you want your improved Bardic Inspiration, allowing it to recover in a short rest, you can go for that. If you want to level up Cleric for Astral Knowledge to gain proficiency in the skills you don't have, you could go with that. If you wanted to level up Rogue for bonus action attack, dash, not attack, hide, dash, and disengage, you could go with that. So you've got a lot of options for your final build. I'm just going to keep it simple and go with Sorcerer for the extra twin haste, but all of these options will actually be rather strong for you, so go with whatever you like. And then we also get our final spell from this level, which, I mean, you gotta take Counterspell, right? You've gotta take Counterspell. Counterspell is super, super strong. Everybody knows this. I mean, you could take Fireball if you want a big damage AoE, but I don't think that's very V-like, so I would definitely be going Counterspell here for the utility. And that's the build. A ton of utility overall. We get all of these different spells, a ton of different proficiencies. In fact, let's look at it right now. In total, we have proficiency in Sleight of Hand, Stealth, Arcana, History, Investigation, Nature, Religion, Insight, Perception, Survival, Deception, Intimidation, Performance, and Persuasion. And we get half proficiency in Medicine, Acrobatics, and Athletics. Boom. All of the useful proficiencies in the game, I believe. Medicine, I think that this comes up maybe once or twice in the game. I don't think it's very useful. Animal Handling becomes absolutely useless with the Speak with Animals spell, and Acrobatics and Athletics only affects our ability to shove and resist being shoved, which is not going to matter. So you've got proficiency or expertise in every single important skill of the game. Amazing. So let's go over the equipment for V now. Our weapon is going to be the Duelist Prerogative. This is the same weapon I used for my old Virgil build, and I want to preface old because I am redoing the Virgil build because it was a really bad video. The audio quality was terrible. I like that build still, but it is not a Virgil build, so I will be kind of retitling it as like the Duelist Prerogative build or the Piercing Damage build or something along those lines. And my next video is going to be a Virgil redo, so look forward to that. I will actually be using the katana because I'm an idiot and I didn't realize that was in the game originally. So, but the Duelist Prerogative here works really, really nicely. Again, we're not really going to want to be in the thick of combat with V, but if you do end up being that way, whether against your will or not, you do get an attack and a bonus action attack out of this, but it also gives you 2 reactions, which means you can counter spell twice per turn. Anything you can do with a reaction, you can do it twice per turn. Super, super good. It's also the weapon, in my opinion, that looks the closest to V's cane in this game, at least from what I've seen, with the kind of silvery aspect and like kind of the sharp pointed end, so I personally think this works quite well. Our headpiece is the Helldusk helmet. This is really, really cool. It just gives you a +2 bonus to saving throws against spells, so you're more likely to maintain your concentration and also prevent yourself from being frightened or, you know, blinded or stuff like that. Like, it gives you more chances to avoid harmful status conditions, so it's quite good. You also get Immolating Gaze, which is just like a free extra attack you could do, so yeah, it's pretty cool. So I think it's pretty cool. Nothing in the cloak slot simply for the fashion. If you wanted to use something in the cloak slot, I think the Cloak of Protection is just nice. It would bump your AC up to 20, but it's not necessary. As for that, so if you wanted to go with it, I mean, you can, but I personally quite like the look of it without the cloak. Next up, we have the Cloth of Authority. This was the closest thing I could find to like a V-like outfit in the game, so this is what we're going with. You can't be frightened, so you're not having as much trouble against that status condition, and you cannot be afflicted with emotion-altering status conditions, so more ways to maintain your concentration, which is really, really good. You have advantage on intimidation and insight checks, so more social skill stuff, and a +1 armor class, which is always nice. The gloves of dexterity, because we left our dexterity so low, this bumps it up. It gives us a +1 to attack. This is really, really good since since now our only kind of negative stat is our strength, despite the fact that we've pumped so much into wisdom, intelligence, and charisma. So having these around is really, really good. Next up is the Helldusk Boots. You cannot be forcibly moved by other foes' spells or actions, and you ignore the effects of difficult terrain, more mobility, and it stops you from being shoved off of ledges, which happens to me more than I would like to admit. Infernal Evasion. When you fail a saving throw, you may use your reaction to succeed instead. So if you are going to drop your concentration, you suddenly don't. These are actually really busted. I can't believe I kind of just missed these originally. Absolutely crazy. And you also get a little bonus action here. You get Hellcrawler, which lets you teleport to an area and deal fire damage where you land. Just a kind of alternative to Misty Step that you get for free. Really, really cool. Deals a little bit of extra damage. Not bad at all. Next up, for our accessories, we have the Amulet of Greater Health, because I really tried so hard not to use this. I really do, and because it just goes against everything V is about. He is supposed to be a weakling that uses his familiars in fights. I would get rid of this in a heartbeat, and in fact, I think you should. If you plan to maybe do like a run with this build, if you want the challenge, because I think this, it just erases the difficulty, and it's a shame. But we're using it here specifically because I just wanted to show off this build at its most powerful, and you get a ton of Constitution bumping up your AC, not your AC, your HP. But you also, I somehow completely missed this, or at least I don't think of it very often. This gives you an advantage on Constitution saving throws. So you get advantage on checks to maintain your Twin Haste, which is absolutely insane. Like, how did I never notice this? But yeah, it's still broken. Ring of Protection, stronger saving throws, better armor class, can't go wrong. Now this one's cool. This is Whispering Promise. When you heal the creature, you gain a 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and saving throws for 2 turns. Or they get, yeah, you gain one. So you basically get Bless for healing creatures. It's a really cool spell. Since you're going to be wanting to be a support role and you want to be healing your familiars throughout the fight, getting Bless for free, buff your saving throws even more, pretty much constantly have it up, It's actually really strong. I'm surprised this isn't uncommon. I mean, I can get why, because the later rings in the game are busted, but this is still really powerful for something you can get fairly early on in the game, so definitely worth using this one. With that, I believe that is everything. I covered the familiars, which I will just quickly show you each again. The equipment, for the record, the weapons you use for the dual wielder feat do not matter. They do not matter at all, because it's just weapons that you can equip in either hand. I'm just using like legendary and very rare weapons because it just looks funny in the screen. It doesn't actually matter what you use. But, yeah, just play around with it. So, I will be showing the combat footage now, I believe. And I want to use this opportunity to talk about a few things. Like I said, the V build took a lot of like kind of theory crafting. Like, I actually had to bust out a spreadsheet to make sure I was optimizing each of the wild shape forms. And I feel like this build is probably one of the ones I'm more proud of compared to the other ones that I've done, because Nero builds, while I think it is a good build and it's really fun and it is quite on point, I did come up with that in like an afternoon, whereas this one took me a bit more time. And obviously the Dante build I did a whole playthrough with. And this is why I kind of want to talk about the Virgil build that I made. I made that because I randomly logged onto YouTube one day, got a notification saying, oh yeah, you've got some new subscribers and some comments. And then I saw the views on the Dante video and I was just like, holy crap, do people actually like this? Okay, well, if people like me talking about like builds and such, I want to keep doing it because I have so many ideas. So I kind of jumped into the Virgil build without really thinking. So I'm going to redo it. I'm going to use the katana and I'm going to create a more interesting build, and I think I've got a good idea for it. So I did make some amendments to that build in the Nero video. I will put a little disclaimer in both video descriptions to kind of ignore anything I say about the Virgil build before the new video. And I will be retitling the old Virgil video to like the Duel's Prerogative build or like the Piercer or something. But I just want to say thank you. I wasn't expecting the really kind and overwhelming response I got from you guys who watch these. Like, I'm not doing this to like build my channel or like make an online following or anything like that. I just do this because I really like theory crafting builds in video games and like tabletop games and such. I do it all the time in my spare time. And being able to share like that kind of love for this kind of thing and like the excitement and the like the kind of eureka moments where you're just like, this is how I could build this character and this works for this and this works for that. It's one of my favorite things ever, and the fact that so many people are willing to like indulge me, and you know, it really means a lot. And I love video editing. If you look at some of the older stuff that I've done some quite highly edited content in the past. You know, like my subtitled stuff and like my video essays that I did right at the start. And I love video editing. I love making creative content like this, but I kind of lost my passion for it after a while because it took so long and, you know, stuff like that. But now that I've kind of come back and like I get to video edit and talk about things that I love and, you know, share my thoughts and such, and like my builds and like, you know, just have a good time making these. It's I can't even put it into words. It gives me a feeling for this kind of thing that I haven't had in a long time. So I sincerely thank everyone for being like really kind to me, for showing interest, for showing support. I want to keep doing the best that I can for you guys. So that's why I am going to be remaking the Virgil build, because I believe I want that to be to a higher quality, and why I spent so long on the V build as well. So yeah. One more thing I'm going to cover now. After the Virgil build is finished, I want to put this out now so that I can get some ideas in, but after the Virgil build is finished, I will have officially completed the 4 characters of the DMC crew properly this time. So from that point on, I will be taking build requests. The main reason I did the initial Virgil build is because somebody requested it, so I wanted to kind of put it out there that I am taking build requests. If there is a character or a group of characters that comes in sets of 4 that you would like to see, I welcome the challenge. I would like to see if I can build these characters to the best of my ability. Obviously, keep requests reasonable. I'm not going to be able to make characters that are, like, super, like, in-depth and detailed, like characters like anime characters such as Goku or, you know, Luffy or such like that, where they can, like, have stretchy rubber bands and fire laser beams out of their hands and such. That's gonna be a bit trickier to do, but if they're popular enough requests, I will try. But if there's, like, you know, like stuff like maybe Final Fantasy characters or some ideas I toyed around with, or maybe, I don't know, like From Software characters like Elden Ring or Dark Souls, stuff like that, I'd be willing to give those all a try. So send your requests in. I read pretty much every single comment, so I try, and I think I've responded to all of the ones that come up on these videos, so I'm definitely looking at them. So if you have build requests for things that you would like to see, please put them in the comment below, and I will craft them and get a video out when I can. I think I've rambled on long enough for the combat footage in the background to kind of be done with, so yeah, I'm going to sign off here. Remastered virtual video next, and then requests after that. So yeah, thank you, and goodbye.